The Project Gutenberg ebook of He Swallows Gold. This ebook is for the use of anyone anywhere in the United States and most other parts of the world at no cost and with almost no restrictions whatsoever. You may copy it, give it away or reuse it under the terms of the Project Gutenberg license included with this ebook or online at www.gutenberg.org. If you are not located in the United States, you will have to check the laws of the country where you are located before using this ebook. Title: He Swallows Gold. Author: H. Bedford-Jones. Release date: February 4, 2024. Ebook number 72871. Language: English. Original publication: New York, New York, Frank A. Munsey Company, 1919. Credits: Roger Frank and Sue Clark. Start of the Project Gutenberg ebook He Swallows Gold. He Swallows Gold by H. Bedford-Jones. We, all of us, said Huber Davis reflectively, like to show off how we do things, we like to tell people about our methods, we like to exposit our particular way of managing affairs. Each of us thinks he is a little tin god in that respect, carefree. That's the way of a white man. A Chinaman, however, is just the opposite. He does not want to show his methods. He does things in a damned mysterious way and he never tells. Carefree sucked at his cigarette and eyed his brother-in-law with a sneer beneath his eyelids. Only a few hours previously Carefree had landed from the coasting steamer, very glad indeed to get out of Batavia and parts adjacent with a whole skin. His wife was coming later, after she had straightened up his affairs, and he would then hop aboard the Royal Mail liner with her, and voyage on to Colombo and Europe. Ruth Carefree, however, knew little about the deal which had sent Carefree himself up to Sabang in a hurry. "You seem to know a lot about Chinese ways," said Carefree. "I ought to," admitted Huber Davis placidly. "I been dealing with them here for the past 10 years, and I built up a whale of a business with their help. You, on the other hand, got into a whale of a mess through swindling the innocent Oriental. Cut out the abuse," broke in Carefree nastily. "What are you driving at with your drivel about Chinese methods? I suppose you're insinuating that they'll try to get after me away up here at Sabang." "More than likely," assented Huber Davis. "They have fairly close connections, what with business tongs and the Heaven and Earth Society, which has a lodge here. They'll know that the clever chap who carried out that swindling game in Singapore, and then managed to put it over the second time in Batavia, is named Reginald Carefree. They'll have relatives in both places, probably you ruined a good many of their relatives." "Look here," snapped Carefree nastily. "Let me impress on you that there was no swindle. The Chinese love to gamble, and I gave 'em a run for their money, that's all." Huber Davis eyed his brother-in-law with a trace of cynicism in his wide-eyed, poised features. "Never mind lying about it, Reggie," he said coolly. "You'll be here until the next boat to Colombo, which is 5 days. In those 5 days you take my advice and stick close to this house, you'll be absolutely safe here. I'm not helping and protecting you, mind, because I love you, it's for Ruth's sake. Somehow, Ruth would be sorry if you got bumped off. No one else would be sorry that I know of, but Ruth's my sister, and I'd like to oblige her. I don't order you to stay here, mind that. It's merely advice." Under this lash of cool, unimpassioned truths Carefree reddened and then paled again. He did not display any resentment, however. He was a little afraid of Huber Davis. "You're a way off color," he said carelessly. "Think I'm going to be a prisoner here? No. Besides, I honestly think there's no danger, in spite of your apprehension. The yellow boys have nothing to be revengeful over, you see." "Oh," said Huber Davis mildly. "I understood that several had committed suicide back in Batavia. That makes you their murderer, according to the old beliefs." Carefree laughed. His laugh was not very good to hear, either. Bosh, he exclaimed. Those old superstitions are discarded in these days of New China. You'll be saying next that the ghosts of the dead will haunt me. They ought to, retorted Huber Davis. So you think the old beliefs are gone, do you? Well, we're not in China, my excellent Reiki. We're in Sabang, and the Straits Chinese have a way of clinging to the beliefs of their ancestors. You stick close to the house. You go to the devil, snapped Carefree. Huber Davis merely shrugged his shoulders, as though he had received all the consideration which he had expected. Limoji, he observed, is the biggest trader in these parts, and I know he has a raft of relatives back your way. I'd avoid his store. Carefree, uttering an impatient oath, got up and left the veranda. Huber Davis glanced after his brother-in-law, a sleepy, cynical laziness in his gaze. One gathered that he would not care a whit how soon Carefree died, except possibly that his sister Ruth still loved Carefree a little. And except, of course, that the man was his own brother-in-law, and at the ends of the earth a white man upholds certain ideas about caste and the duty of white to white, and so forth. Singapore is called the gateway of the Far East, but the real portal is the free trade island harbor of Sabang, at the northern end of Sumatra. At Sabang even the mail steamers stop, coming and going. From England and India, coal is dumped at Sabang, the wharves and floating docks are many and busy, the cables extend from Sabang to all parts of the globe. From the harbor heads runs brilliant blue water up to the brilliant green shores, and under the hill is snugly nestled a city whose Chinese streets convey a dull red impression. Here, as elsewhere, the Chinese are the ganglia of trade and activity. The Dutch government likes them and profits by them, and they profit likewise. One of the narrow Chinese streets turns sharply, almost at right angles, and is called the Street of the Heavenly Elbow for this reason. At the outside corner of the elbow is a door and shop sign, opening upon a narrow room little wider than the door, but behind this is another room, widening as one goes farther from the elbow, and behind this yet another room which broadens into a suite of apartments. Such was the shop of Limoji. As is well known, Li is one of the 400 surnames, and Beto kens that its owner is at least of good family, also widely connected. Limoji was both, to boot, he was very rich, considerably dissipated, and his private affairs were exactly like his shop. They began at a small and obscure point, which was himself, and they widened and widened beyond the ken of passers-by until they comprised an extent which would have been incredible to any chance beholder. But Limoji saw to it that there were no chance beholders of his private affairs or shop either. Limoji was not the type of inscrutable, omnipotent gambler who somehow manages to control fate and carry out the purposes of destiny, such as appear to be many of his race. He prided himself upon being a son of Tiang, that is, a man of the old Southern Empire whose ancestry was quite clear and unblemished through about 9 centuries. He was a slant-eyed, yellow-skinned, wrinkled little man of 50. He had a bad digestion and an irritable temper, he was much given to rice wine and wives, and he possessed an uncanny knowledge of the code of Confucius, by which he ruled his life sometimes. Upon the day after Reginald Carefree arrived in Sabang, the estimable Limoji sat in his private back room, which was hung with Qianlong paintings, whose subjects would have scandalized Sodom and Gomorrah. Limoji sucked a 3-foot pipe of bamboo and steel, and watched a kettle of water bubbling over a charcoal brazier. At the proper moment he took a pewter insert from its stand, slipped it into its niche inside the kettle, and watched the water boil until the pewter vessel was well heated. Then he poured hot rice wine into the thimble cup of porcelain at his elbow, sipped it with satisfaction, and clapped his hands 4 times. One of the numerous doors of the room opened to admit a spectacled old man who was a junior partner of Limoges in business, but who was also venerable master of the local lodge of the Heaven and Earth Society. As etiquette demanded, the junior partner removed his spectacles and stood blinking, being blind as a bat without them. "As you are aware, worshipful Chang," said Limoges after some preliminary discourse, "my father's younger brother has become an ancient." Mr. Chang bowed respectfully. A son of Tiang never says of his family that they are dead. But Mr. Chang had heard that Limoges' father's younger brother had committed suicide, with the intent of sending his avenging ghost after one Reginald Carefree. "You are also aware," pursued Limoges, refilling the steel bowl of his pipe, "that the brother-in-law of my friend Hubert Davis has arrived in Sabang for a short visit. As a man of learning, you will comprehend that I have certain duties to perform." Mr. Chang blinked, and promptly took his cue. "You doubtless recall certain canons of the law which bear upon the situation," he squeaked blandly. "It would give me infinite pleasure to hear them from your lips." Limoges had been waiting for this. He exhaled a thin cloud of smoke, and quoted from his exact memory of the writings of the Confucian canon, "With the slayer of his father, a man may not live under the same sky; against the slayer of his brother, a man must never have to go home to seek a weapon; with the slayer of his friend, a man may not live in the same state." Limoges smoked for a moment in silence, then continued, "Thus reads the Book of Rites, most venerable Chang. And yet our friend Hubert Davis is our friend." "If the tiger and the ox are in company," quoth Mr. Chang squeakily, "let the ox die with the tiger." "Not at all to the point," said Limoges in irritated accents. "Do not be a venerable fool, my father. I desire that a messenger be sent to my bazaar." "Speak the message, beloved of heaven," responded the elder. "In our safe," said Limoges slowly, "is a three-armed candlestick of white jade, bound in brass and having upon its three arms the characters signifying chalk, charcoal, and water. It is my wish that this precious object be taken to my bazaar and placed there near the door, with a sign upon it putting the price at 9 florins, also, that our clerks be severely instructed to sell this object to no one except Mr. Carefree." Mr. Chang wet his lips. "But, dear brother," he expostulated, "this is one of the precious objects of the Heaven and Earth Society." "That is why I desire your permission to make use of it," said Limoges. "Am I to be trusted or not? Is my sacred honor of no worth in your eyes?" "But, to be sold to a foreign devil," the junior partner exclaimed. "That is my wish." Mr. Chang threw up his hands, not without a smothered oath. "Very well," he squeaked angrily. "But when this swindler, this murderer of honest folk, sees it for sale in your bazaar at so ridiculous a price, he will buy it and take it away, and laugh at Limoges for a fool." "If he did not," said Limoges, pouring himself another thimble cup of wine, "I should be a most wretched and unhappy man. A Chinese candlestick is meant to hold, upon a long, upright prong, a candle painted with very soft red wax, so soft that the finger cannot touch the paint without blurring and marring it. Otherwise, it is like Occidental candlesticks in general respects." Reginald Carefree, who had plenty of money in his pocket, but who had left Singapore in something of a real hurry, walked into the Benevolent Brethren Bazaar in search of silks and pongees to take home to Europe. The bazaar, which bore no other name, confined itself almost exclusively to such goods. In the front of the shop, which was upon one of the half-Dutch streets overlooking the harbour, were strewn about a few objects of brass, bronze, and the cheap chamelave cloisonné which are made for tourists. Almost as he entered the place, however, the vigilant eye of Carefree discovered a very different object, placed in a niche which concealed it from view of the street. It was no less than a candlestick of 3 arms, a most unusual thing. Also, it was made chiefly from jade, highly carven, while the upright prongs and the trimmings were of brass. Altogether, a most extraordinary and wonderful candlestick priced at 9 florins. Carefrou, naturally, thought that his eyes lied to him about the price. With excitement twitching at his nerves, he walked back and bought several bolts of silk, ordering them sent to him at the residence of Huber Davis. Then, casually, he inquired about the candlestick of the smiling clerk. It was, he learned, a worthless object, left here for sale long years ago by some now forgotten Hindu native, or maybe Arab. One could not be certain where years had elapsed, and the insignificance of the object was great, but of course the books would show, should it be desired that the affair be looked into. Naturally, Carefrou did not desire the affair looked into, because someone was then sure to discover that the candlestick was real jade. There was no doubt about that fact, and he was too shrewd to be deceived. A passing wonder did enter his mind as to how yellow men, especially men of Tiang from the middle provinces, could have supposed the candlestick to be worthless, but, after all, mistakes happen to all men and other men profit by them. The candlestick was not a wonder of the world, but was worth a few $100 at least. So Carefrou laid down his 9 florins, and carried his purchase away with him, wrapped in paper. Carefrou found the bungalow deserted except for the native boys. The siesta hour was over, and Huber Davis had departed to his office. After a critical inspection of his purchase, resulting in a complete vindication of his former judgment, Carefrou set the triple candlestick on the dining table and swung off to Chinatown again. It was the most natural desire in the world to want to complete that princely candlestick with appropriate candles, particularly as Carefrou was now on his way to Europe and would have little further chance to get hold of the real articles. Being downtown, Carefrou dropped into the office of Huber Davis, and found a letter which had come in that morning by the coast steamer from Batavia. The letter was from Ruth, confirming her passage on the next fast Royal Mail boat. Upon the 4th day from this she would be at Sabang, having taken passage as far as Colombo for herself and Carefrou, whose loose business ends she was arranging. "I suppose," inquired Huber Davis in his cool, semi-interested fashion, "you did not take her into your confidence regarding your late financial ventures?" "Why in hell would I want to bother her about finances?" retorted Carefrou, with his bold-eyed look. "She doesn't understand such things." "Damned good thing she doesn't, perhaps," reflected the other. "Well, see you later. By the way, here's the receipt for that 30,000 you laid in my safe." "I don't want receipts from you," protested Carefrou virtuously. "Maybe not, but I want to give 'em to you," and Huber Davis smiled. "Damned rotter," reflected Carefrou as he passed on his way. He was not acquainted in or with Sabang. It was not hard to see what he desired, however, and presently he succeeded beyond his expectations. A dirty window filled with dried oysters and strings of fish and other things, after the Chinese fashion, carried also a display of temple candles. They had only appeared in the window that morning, but Carefrou did not know it, and would not have cared had he known it. Carefrou stopped and inspected the candles, which were exactly what he wanted. There was a half-inch wick of twisted cotton, around which was built the candle, 2 inches thick. The outside was gaudy red and blue with sticky grease paint, and at the lower end was a protruding reed 4 inches long. By this reed one might handle the affair without marring the paint, and into this reed fitted the upright prong of a candlestick. The whole candle was bound inside a big joint of bamboo, which held it without harm. Noting that there was 1 candle on display, and that there seemed to be but 2 more with it, Carefrou entered the shop, found the proprietor, and priced the candles. The proprietor had brought them from Singapore 10 years previously and did not want to sell them. However, Carefree offered a 10 florin note, and carried them home. He was, for the moment, a child with a new toy, completely absorbed in it, and utterly heedless of all the rest of the world. Another man might have had weights upon his conscience, but Reginald Carefree was not bothered by any such. He laid the 3 bamboo cylinders upon the dining table, after it had been laid for dinner, and opened them, cutting the shrunken withes that held them securely. The glaring red candles lay before him, and for a moment he pulled at his cigarette and studied them. Knowing what sort of candles they were, he tentatively touched them with his forefinger. The touch left a red blotch at the end of his finger, so soft was the grease paint. One by one he set them carefully upon the 3 prongs of his jade candlestick. One could not blame his ardent admiration. Even to an eye which knew nothing of Chinese art, the picture was exquisite; to one who could appreciate fully, it was marvelous. Candles and candlestick blended into a perfect thing, a creation. "And to think that it cost me," said Carefree to his brother-in-law, when Huber Davis appeared, "exactly 19 florins, 10 of which were for the candles." Huber Davis gazed at the outfit appraisingly, a slight frown creasing his brow. "If I were you," he said after a moment, "I'd get rid of it, Reggie. You certainly picked up something there, but it doesn't look right to me. You don't catch John Chinaman handing out stuff like that at a bargain price, not these days." "Bosh," ejaculated Carefree. "A pickup, that's all one of the things that comes the way of any man who keeps his eyes open." Huber Davis shrugged his shoulders. "Got the red stuff on your hands, eh?" Carefree smiled vaguely. His smile was always vague and disagreeable, and glanced at his hands. He rubbed them, and the red spots became a fine pink rouge. "I'll light 'em up," he said, "and then wash for dinner, eh?" Huber Davis said nothing, but watched with cold growing eyes as Carefree lighted the 3 wicks. He was somewhat long in doing this, for they were slow to catch. When they did flare, it was with a yellow, smoky light that sent a black trail to the ceiling. Carefree turned to leave the room, but the voice of his brother-in-law brought him about quickly. "Wait. I had a letter today from my agent in Batavia, Reggie. He said that Ruth had been in the office. He was helping her straighten up some of your affairs." A subtle alarm crept into the narrow eyes of Carefree as he met the cold, passionless gaze of Huber Davis. "Well," he demanded suddenly. "What is the idea?" "You didn't say anything was wrong with Ruth," said Huber Davis calmly. "But my agent mentioned that her right arm looked badly bruised. Her sleeve fell away, I imagine, and she said it had been a slight accident." "What was it?" Carefree's brows lifted. "Damned if I know. Must have hurt herself after I left, eh? Too bad." Now he turned and left the room, whistling. Huber Davis gazed after him. One would have said that the man's cold eyes suddenly glowed and smoldered, as a shaft of sunlight suddenly strikes fire into cold amethyst. "Ah," he muttered. "You damned blackguard, it goes with the rest, it does. You've laid hands on her, and yet she sticks by you. Some women are like that. You've laid hands on her, all right. If I could prove it, by the Lord I'd let out your rotten soul. But she'll never tell." Presently Carefree's gay whistle sounded, and he sauntered back into the dining room. "That's queer," he observed lightly. "The red ink wouldn't come off. I'll get some of your cocoa butter after dinner and try it on. Hello. Real steamed rice, eh? Say, that's a treat. I despise this Dutch stuff." For Huber Davis, who had an excellent general agency, always dealt with Limoges in silks and fabrics, that is, he dealt with Limoges direct, which meant that he was one of a circle of half a dozen men who did this. Not more than half a dozen knew that Limoges had any particular interest in the silk trade. 2 days after Carefrue had brought home the candlestick and appurtenances thereof, Huber Davis sought the street of the Heavenly Elbow, and entered the dingy cubby-hole which opened upon the widening shop of Limoges. That morning Carefrue had carefully tied up his temple candles again and was preparing to pack his purchases of silk. After a very short wait Huber Davis was ushered through the fan-shaped apartments to the hub and kernel of Limoges Enterprises, where the owner sat before his charcoal brazier, heated his rice wine, and gazed upon his nudes to call them by a polite name with never flagging appreciation. Limoges greeted him cordially and ordered tea brought in. Huber Davis said nothing of business until the tea had been poured, and then he did not make the usual foreigner's mistake of drinking his tea. He knew better, for Limoges followed the tea ceremony implicitly. When he had concluded his business in silk, Huber Davis took from his pocket a sheet of notepaper upon which were inscribed 3 ideographs. "I wish you would do me a favor, Mr. Lee," he said. "My brother-in-law is visiting me, and the other day he picked up a candlestick bearing these characters. For the sake of satisfying my own curiosity, I copied the characters and put them up to my clerk, but he said they were very old writing, and that only a university man like yourself could decipher them correctly. So, if you would oblige me." Limoges took the paper and glanced at the 3 ideographs. He wrinkled up his dissipated eyes and gazed at Huber Davis. Then he picked up his pipe and began to smoke. "Your clerk was a wise man, Mr. Davis," he said quietly. "You have heard of the Heaven and Earth Society, no doubt." Huber Davis started. "You mean exactly, my friend? How your esteemed brother-in-law picked up this candlestick I cannot imagine, but it is marked with the emblems of that society, of which I am a member." Huber Davis whistled. He knew that not all the power of the Manchu emperors had availed to stifle that secret fraternity, and he knew that Reggie Carefrue was playing with hot coals. But he kept silence, and presently he had his reward. "If we were not friends," said Limoges reflectively, "and if the ties of friendship were not sacred and honorable things, I would say nothing to you. Even now it may be too late, as to that I cannot say, for others may know that your brother-in-law made this purchase. But, because we are friends, for your sake I shall try to help you." "I appreciate it," said Huber Davis, not without anxiety. His anxiety was warranted. "If you will give me advice it shall be followed implicitly, I assure you." Limoges smoked until his long pipe sucked dry. "Well, then, bring to me that candlestick and whatever else was with it, candles, perhaps. I will make good whatever sum your honorable relative expended, and I will see to it that the matter is adjusted in the right quarters in case trouble has arisen. But, remember, time is an element of importance." "In half an hour," said Huber Davis earnestly, "I shall return with the things." Limoges picked up his cup of tea, signaling that the interview was ended. Huber Davis dropped business and hurried home. If he could have reconciled it with his conscience, he would have let matters alone in the confidence that before a great while Reginald Carefrue would be removed from this mortal sphere, but Huber Davis had a stiff conscience. Besides, there was Ruth. If Ruth still loved the swindler, Huber Davis intended to protect and further him for her sake. There was a good deal of the old conventional spirit in Huber Davis. He expected trouble, and was prepared to handle it firmly, but he wanted to avoid a scene if possible. So, finding Carefrue engaged in packing, he lighted his pipe and watched for a few moments without broaching the subject on his mind. "How much," he said at last, "do you expect to get for that candlestick if you sell it?" Carefree looked at him in surprise. Eh? Think I have some judgment, after all, do you? Oh, I ought to get 100 easily. Well, see here, proposed Huber Davis, I do like the thing, Reiki. Tell you what, I'll give 125, cash down, if you'll turn it over. Eh? Carefree grinned. 150 takes it, he said. You nasty son of, thought Huber Davis. With an effort he controlled himself and produced his checkbook. By the time he had written the check, Carefree had unpacked the candlestick. Huber Davis remembered the negligible remark which Limoji had made about the candles. Throw in the candles, he said, waving the check to dry it. I want 'em. Carefree assented with a laugh. You are welcome, old boy. I've never yet got that damned red stuff off my hands, nothing touches it. It'll have to wear off. And it itches. Huber Davis paid little attention to him, but picked up the wrapped candlestick, took the 2-foot bamboo sections, and started off down the hill. Now, you dirty whelp, he mentally apostrophized his relative, I've got you out of a cursed bad situation, only you don't know it and would never believe it. Upon reaching the funny bone in the street of the Heavenly Elbow, he sent in his name and was ushered quickly to the presence of Limoji. There's the stuff, he said, with a deep breath of relief. And I'm in your debt, Li. I'll remember it. Limoji smiled slightly, ironically, as though Huber Davis might stand more in his debt than was known or dreamed of. Don't forget the price, he said quietly. Accounts must be kept straight, my friend. What was the cost of this thing? 19 florins, but don't bother about that, returned the other, saying nothing of his payment to Carefree. Pardon me, but it must be made all straight. Limoji counted out 19 florins from his pocketbook, which Huber Davis accepted. Now a little wine to our friendship, eh? Huber Davis drank a thimble cup of hot wine and took his departure, feeling that his $150 had been well spent, having pulled Carefree out of a bad situation, and thereby benefited Ruth. Limoji, alone with his charcoal brazier and his pictures and his pipe, left the wrapped candlestick as it was, but took the 3 candles in their bamboo wrappings and opened a door in the wall where no door appeared to sight. He entered a long, narrow room which contained a great many queer little bottles, many of them old Chinese flasks carved from agate or amethyst, and a long table. The room did not appear in the least like a laboratory. When he had laid the candles upon the table, Limoji carefully cut the wrappings, but left each candle lying in its cradle of bamboo. Then he took a large glass bottle from the corner, and poured oil over each candle until the bamboo cradles were filled. When he lighted a match and ignited the oil, one realized that the table was of ironwood. Limoji stood placidly watching while the 3 candles became reduced to scorched and smoking masses of black grease, then blew out the lingering flames, cleaned the debris from the table into a brass jar, and returned to his own apartment. When he had emptied 6 cups of wine, he clapped his hands 4 times, and promptly the venerable Mr. Chang appeared, removing his spectacles and blinking. I return to your keeping the honorable candlestick of our lodge, said Limoji, and I thank you for the loan, venerable master. Are the spirits of the dead satisfied? Queried Mr. Chang. Limoji poured himself another cup of wine and positively grinned. If they are not, he said, this time in English, they are damned hard to please. It will be observed that Limoji was out nothing whatever except certain obscure labors, for while he had paid Huber Davis 19 florins, Carefree had paid 19 florins to agents of Limoji. And this, according to Oriental notions, was the acme of honor and propriety. The Royal Mail boat, the through packet on which Ruth Carefree was coming, held due for Sabang late in the afternoon. Upon the morning of that day Huber Davis went to the wireless station and sent a message to Ruth, aboard the steamer, to prepare to leave ship at Sabon and cancel passage. Then Huber Davis returned to his own bungalow, and met Dr. Brossart as the latter was leaving. "Well," inquired Huber Davis quickly, "what's the trouble?" The physician shrugged his shoulders. "It has come, that's all. Java has been swept, the west coast of Sumatra has seen them die by thousands, and now it is here." "The influenza," said Huber Davis. "It can be nothing else. High temperature, and you say he had chills yesterday, much pain, everything according to the ritual." "I am sorry, Mynheer Davis, his room had better be quarantined, of course." "You think it is dangerous?" "No. The danger, of course, lies in the pneumonia afterward. We must wait and see." After this, events moved fast. At noon the doctor arrived again, in response to a hurried message from Huber Davis. An hour later the two men sat in the study of Davis. "But, Brossart," said the latter, staring at the doctor, "what the devil was it, then? You say there was no pneumonia." The honest Dutchman shook his head. "Mynheer, upon my word of honor, I don't know. I shall call it heart failure, that's what we all say, you know, to conceal our ignorance. The Chinese would say that he had swallowed gold, another polite way of saying the same thing. If you want an autopsy." Huber Davis rose, paced up and down the room, his brow furrowed. "That's not half bad, that Chinese saying," he muttered. "No, Brossart, no autopsy. His wife arrives this afternoon, you know, my sister Ruth." "Swallowed gold, did he? I believe it's the truth, at that." But he never thought again about the red grease paint on those candles, and he did not know anything about Limoji having a little laboratory in the Chinese style opening off his apartments. Nobody knew about that laboratory, except Limoji, and Mr. Lee never boasted of his methods. Transcriber's note: this story appeared in the May 3, 1919 issue of Argosy and Railroad Man's magazine. End of the Project Gutenberg ebook. He Swallows Gold. Updated editions will replace the previous one. The old editions will be renamed. Creating the works from print editions not protected by U.S. copyright law means that no one owns a United States copyright in these works, so the Foundation, and you, can copy and distribute it in the United States without permission and without paying copyright royalties. Special rules, set forth in the general terms of use part of this license, apply to copying and distributing Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark concept and trademark. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark, and may not be used if you charge for an ebook, except by following the terms of the trademark license, including paying royalties for use of the Project Gutenberg trademark. If you do not charge anything for copies of this ebook, complying with the trademark license is very easy. You may use this ebook for nearly any purpose, such as creation of derivative works, reports, performances, and research. Project Gutenberg ebooks may be modified and printed and given away. You may do practically anything in the United States with ebooks not protected by U.S. copyright law. Redistribution is subject to the trademark license, especially commercial redistribution. Start, full license. The full Project Gutenberg license. Please read this before you distribute or use this work to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark mission of promoting the free distribution of electronic works, by using or distributing this work, or any other work associated in any way with the phrase Project Gutenberg. You agree to comply with all the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark license available with this file or online at www.gutenberg.org/license. Section 1. General terms of use and redistributing Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works 1.a. By reading or using any part of this Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work, you indicate that you have read, understand, agree to and accept all the terms of this license and intellectual property, trademark/copyright, agreement. If you do not agree to abide by all the terms of this agreement, you must cease using and return or destroy all copies of Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works in your possession. If you paid a fee for obtaining a copy of or access to a Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work and you do not agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement, you may obtain a refund from the person or entity to whom you paid the fee as set forth in paragraph 1.e.8. 1.b Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark. It may only be used on or associated in any way with an electronic work by people who agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement. There are a few things that you can do with most Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works even without complying with the full terms of this agreement. See paragraph 1.c below. There are a lot of things you can do with Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works if you follow the terms of this agreement and help preserve free future access to Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works. See paragraph 1.e below. 1.c. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the foundation or PGLOF, owns a compilation copyright in the collection of Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works. Nearly all the individual works in the collection are in the public domain in the United States. If an individual work is unprotected by copyright law in the United States and you are located in the United States, we do not claim a right to prevent you from copying, distributing, performing, displaying, or creating derivative works based on the work as long as all references to Project Gutenberg are removed. Of course, we hope that you will support the Project Gutenberg trademark mission of promoting free access to electronic works by freely sharing Project Gutenberg trademark works in compliance with the terms of this agreement for keeping the Project Gutenberg trademark name associated with the work. You can easily comply with the terms of this agreement by keeping this work in the same format with its attached full Project Gutenberg trademark license when you share it without charge with others. 1.d. The copyright laws of the place where you are located also govern what you can do with this work. Copyright laws in most countries are in a constant state of change. If you are outside the United States, check the laws of your country in addition to the terms of this agreement before downloading, copying, displaying, performing, distributing or creating derivative works based on this work or any other Project Gutenberg trademark work. The Foundation makes no representations concerning the copyright status of any work in any country other than the United States. 1.e Unless you have removed all references to Project Gutenberg, 1.e.1. The following sentence, with active links to, or other immediate access to, the full Project Gutenberg trademark license must appear prominently whenever any copy of a Project Gutenberg trademark work, any work on which the phrase Project Gutenberg appears, or with which the phrase Project Gutenberg is associated, is accessed, displayed, performed, viewed, copied or distributed. This ebook is for the use of anyone anywhere in the United States and most other parts of the world at no cost and with almost no restrictions whatsoever. You may copy it, give it away or reuse it under the terms of the Project Gutenberg license included with this ebook or online at www.gutenberg.org. If you are not located in the United States, you will have to check the laws of the country where you are located before using this ebook. 1.e.2. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work is derived from texts not protected by U.S. copyright law, does not contain a notice indicating that it is posted with permission of the copyright holder, the work can be copied and distributed to anyone in the United States without paying any fees or charges. If you are redistributing or providing access to a work with the phrase Project Gutenberg associated with or appearing on the work, you must comply either with the requirements of paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 or obtain permission for the use of the work and the Project Gutenberg trademark as set forth in paragraphs 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.3. If an individual Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work is posted with the permission of the copyright holder, your use and distribution must comply with both paragraphs 1.e.1 through 1.e.7 and any additional terms imposed by the copyright holder. Additional terms will be linked to the Project Gutenberg trademark license for all works posted with the permission of the copyright holder found at the beginning of this work. 1.e.4. Do not unlink or detach or remove the full Project Gutenberg trademark license terms from this work, or any files containing a part of this work or any other work associated with Project Gutenberg trademark. 1.e.5. Do not copy, display, perform, distribute or redistribute this electronic work, or any part of this electronic work, without prominently displaying the sentence set forth in paragraph 1.e.1 with active links or immediate access to the full terms of the Project Gutenberg trademark license. 1.e.6. You may convert to and distribute this work in any binary, compressed, marked up, non-proprietary or proprietary form, including any word processing or hypertext form. However, if you provide access to or distribute copies of a Project Gutenberg trademark work in a format other than plain vanilla ASCII or other format used in the official version posted on the official Project Gutenberg trademark website, www.gutenberg.org, you must, at no additional cost, fee, or expense to the user, provide a copy, a means of exporting a copy, or a means of obtaining a copy upon request, of the work in its original plain vanilla ASCII or other form. Any alternate format must include the full Project Gutenberg trademark license as specified in paragraph 1.e.1. 1.e.7. Do not charge a fee for access to, viewing, displaying, performing, copying or distributing any Project Gutenberg trademark works unless you comply with paragraph 1.e.8 or 1.e.9. 1.e.8. You may charge a reasonable fee for copies of or providing access to or distributing Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works provided that, you pay a royalty fee of 20% of the gross profits you derive from the use of Project Gutenberg trademark works calculated using the method you already use to calculate your applicable taxes. The fee is owed to the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark, but he has agreed to donate royalties under this paragraph to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Royalty payments must be paid within 60 days following each date on which you prepare, or are legally required to prepare, your periodic tax returns. Royalty payments should be clearly marked as such and sent to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation at the address specified in Section 4, Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. You provide a full refund of any money paid by a user who notifies you in writing, or by email, within 30 days of receipt that he does not agree to the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark license. You must require such a user to return or destroy all copies of the works possessed in a physical medium and discontinue all use of and all access to other copies of Project Gutenberg trademark works. You provide, in accordance with paragraph 1.f.3, a full refund of any money paid for a work or a replacement copy, if a defect in the electronic work is discovered and reported to you within 90 days of receipt of the work. You comply with all other terms of this agreement for free distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark works. 1.e.9. If you wish to charge a fee or distribute a Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work or group of works on different terms than are set forth in this agreement, you must obtain permission in writing from the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the manager of the Project Gutenberg trademark. Contact the Foundation as set forth in Section 3 below. 1.f1.f.1 Project Gutenberg volunteers and employees expend considerable effort to identify, do copyright research on, transcribe and proofread works not protected by U.S. copyright law in creating the Project Gutenberg trademark collection. Despite these efforts, Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works, and the medium on which they may be stored, may contain defects, such as, but not limited to, incomplete, inaccurate or corrupt data, transcription errors, a copyright or other intellectual property infringement, a defective or damaged disk or other medium, a computer virus, or computer codes that damage or cannot be read by your equipment. 1.f.2 Limited warranty, disclaimer of damages, except for the right of replacement or refund described in paragraph 1.f.3, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark, and any other party distributing a Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work under this agreement, disclaim all liability to you for damages, costs, and expenses, including legal fees. You agree that you have no remedies for negligence, strict liability, breach of warranty or breach of contract except those provided in paragraph 1.f.3. You agree that the Foundation, the trademark owner, and any distributor under this agreement will not be liable to you for actual, direct, indirect, consequential, punitive, or incidental damages even if you give notice of the possibility of such damage. 1.f.3 Limited right of replacement or refund. If you discover a defect in this electronic work within 90 days of receiving it, you can receive a refund of the money, if any, you paid for it by sending a written explanation to the person you received the work from. If you received the work on a physical medium, you must return the medium with your written explanation. The person or entity that provided you with the defective work may elect to provide a replacement copy in lieu of a refund. If you received the work electronically, the person or entity providing it to you may choose to give you a second opportunity to receive the work electronically in lieu of a refund. If the second copy is also defective, you may demand a refund in writing without further opportunities to fix the problem. 1.f.4 Except for the limited right of replacement or refund set forth in paragraph 1.f.3, this work is provided to you as is, with no other warranties of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to warranties of merchantability or fitness for any purpose. 1.f.5 Some states do not allow disclaimers of certain implied warranties or the exclusion or limitation of certain types of damages. If any disclaimer or limitation set forth in this agreement violates the law of the state applicable to this agreement, the agreement shall be interpreted to make the maximum disclaimer or limitation permitted by the applicable state law. The invalidity or unenforceability of any provision of this agreement shall not void the remaining provisions. 1.f.6 Indemnity. You agree to indemnify and hold the Foundation, the trademark owner, any agent or employee of the Foundation, anyone providing copies of Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works in accordance with this agreement, and any volunteers associated with the production, promotion, and distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works, harmless from all liability, costs, and expenses, including legal fees, that arise directly or indirectly from any of the following which you do or cause to occur. A. Distribution of this or any Project Gutenberg trademark work. B. Alteration, modification, or additions or deletions to any Project Gutenberg trademark work, and C. Any defect you cause. Section 2. Information about the mission of Project Gutenberg trademark. Project Gutenberg trademark is synonymous with the free distribution of electronic works in formats readable by the widest variety of computers, including obsolete, old, middle-aged, and new computers. It exists because of the efforts of hundreds of volunteers and donations from people in all walks of life. Volunteers and financial support to provide volunteers with the assistance they need are critical to reaching Project Gutenberg trademark's goals and ensuring that the Project Gutenberg trademark collection will remain freely available for generations to come. In 2001, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation was created to provide a secure and permanent future for Project Gutenberg trademark and future generations. To learn more about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation and how your efforts and donations can help, see sections 3 and 4 and the Foundation information page at www.gutenberg.org. Section 3. Information about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation is a nonprofit 501(c)(3) educational corporation organized under the laws of the state of Mississippi and granted tax-exempt status by the Internal Revenue Service. The Foundation's IN or Federal Tax Identification Number is 64-6221541. Contributions to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation are tax-deductible to the full extent permitted by U.S. federal laws and your state's laws. The Foundation's business office is located at 809 North 1500 West, Salt Lake City, Utah 841-16801-596-1887. Email contact links and up-to-date contact information can be found at the Foundation's website and official page at www.gutenberg.org/contact. Section 4. Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Project Gutenberg trademark depends upon and cannot survive without widespread public support and donations to carry out its mission of increasing the number of public domain and licensed works that can be freely distributed in machine-readable form accessible by the widest array of equipment, including outdated equipment. Many small donations, $1 to $5,000, are particularly important to maintaining tax-exempt status with the IRS. The Foundation is committed to complying with the laws regulating charities and charitable donations in all 50 states of the United States. Compliance requirements are not uniform and it takes a considerable effort, much paperwork, and many fees to meet and keep up with these requirements. We do not solicit donations in locations where we have not received written confirmation of compliance. To send donations or determine the status of compliance for any particular state, visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. While we cannot and do not solicit contributions from states where we have not met the solicitation requirements, we know of no prohibition against accepting unsolicited donations from donors in such states who approach us with offers to donate. International donations are gratefully accepted, but we cannot make any statements concerning tax treatment of donations received from outside the United States. U.S. laws alone swamp our small staff. Please check the Project Gutenberg web pages for current donation methods and addresses. Donations are accepted in a number of other ways, including checks, online payments, and credit card donations. To donate, please visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. Section 5. General information about Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works. Professor Michael S. Hart was the originator of the Project Gutenberg trademark concept of a library of electronic works that could be freely shared with anyone. For 40 years, he produced and distributed Project Gutenberg trademark ebooks with only a loose network of volunteer support. Project Gutenberg trademark ebooks are often created from several printed editions, all of which are confirmed as not protected by copyright in the U.S. unless a copyright notice is included. Thus, We do not necessarily keep ebooks in compliance with any particular paper edition. Most people start at our website, which has the main PG search facility, www.gutenberg.org. This website includes information about Project Gutenberg trademark, including how to make donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, how to help produce our new ebooks, and how to subscribe to our email newsletter to hear about new ebooks. He Swallows Gold I234V, the full Project Gutenberg license.